What kind of mother feeds a child dog food? Not because she was bad, but because she was orphaned. The story you're about to watch isn't just a story, it's a warning. A scream wrapped in silence, a cry no one heard until it was almost too late. She didn't ask for much, a blanket, a birthday, a hug. But what she got was a rusty chain, a dog bowl, and a basement no child should ever know. Who locks a little girl underground? Who laughs while she cries for food? Who replaces bedtime stories with beatings? Who tells her, "You're not my daughter, you're just a burden"? And what kind of justice exists in a world that lets this happen? For years, this is a story of pain, of silence, of karma in disguise. But not everything broken stays broken forever. Subscribe, sit down and watch the full story now. Because some scars don't fade, they fight back. The basement was dark, damp, and smelt like something had died there a long time ago. In one corner, a little girl, barefoot, legs bruised, wearing a dirty, torn nightgown, knelt beside a rusty metal plate. Not a real plate, a dog's plate. Her name was Elsie, just 8 years old. But the sadness in her eyes made her look like a tired old woman in a child's body. She reached out with her small shaky fingers and picked up a cold lump of dog food, stale, hard, and covered in flies. She didn't cry anymore. She had cried for 2 years. The tears had dried up. Now she just ate, like an animal. "Why are you eating like that?" came a voice from the stairs. It was Vanessa, the woman who called herself her stepmother. She stood with a wine glass in one hand and a towel wrapped around her fresh salon hair. "Oh, poor thing, did I forget to warm up the dog food?" she mocked, laughing as she sipped her wine. Elsie said nothing. Even if she screamed, no one would hear. Even if someone heard, no one ever came. 2 years ago, her real parents had died in a car crash on their way to pick her up from school. That was the last time she smiled.
"Vanessa!"
Her father's new wife had cried at the funeral. She hugged Elsie and whispered, "I'll take care of you like my own daughter." What a joke. The very next day, Elsie's room was emptied and she was dragged to the dog's corner of the house. No bed, no toys, no birthday cake, just a cold floor and the dog's plate. "Don't waste the food-o,"
"Vanessa!"
Canal said, walking away. "Bruno the dog is richer than you and even he doesn't complain." That night, as Elsie chewed the cold, tasteless food, her stomach turned, not from hunger, but from pain. She held her belly, trying not to cry. Even the dog, Bruno, came close and gently licked her hand. Like he knew she was one of them now. Every morning, Vanessa would stroll into the basement, her heels clicking on the concrete like a countdown clock. She never came without her glass of red wine. She always sipped it slowly like royalty. And behind her fake lashes and red lips, she had the smile of a devil wearing diamonds. She would look down at Elsie and smirk. 2 years left, little rat. 1 year and 11 months now. Guess what? You're closer to your expiry date. Tick-tock. Elsie never understood. What's happening in 2 years? What will she do to me? Will I die? Will she throw me out? She didn't dare ask. The one time she did, Vanessa threw a hot iron at her and said, "Don't worry, you're not smart enough to understand. Just eat your dog food and stay alive long enough to make yourself useful." That word useful haunted Elsie. Vanessa didn't hit her often. She did worse. She ignored her, starved her, mocked her in front of guests by calling her our adopted dog, made her wash her children's underwear with ashes and rainwater. When Elsie asked for underwears, Vanessa gave her old newspaper and told to fold it nicely. At night, Elsie would shiver in the corner of the basement, but she was never fully alone. Because Bruno, the big brown family dog, never left her side. He would lay beside her, wrapping himself around her tiny frame like a warm blanket. He would bring her his leftover bone, even if he hadn't finished chewing it. And sometimes he would go upstairs, open the pantry with his nose, steal a biscuit and quietly drop it in her lap like a secret gift. But the most shocking thing? Bruno could count. Every morning he would walk up to the old calendar hanging by the kitchen fridge, He would stare at it, sniff it, paw it, and then sit in front of it, like he was trying to understand what 2 years left really meant for his best friend. Once, Vanessa laughed loudly when she caught him. "Oh, look, the mutt thinks he's a mathematician." She threw a spoon at him, but Bruno didn't move. He just growled quietly, never at Vanessa, but like he was swearing to protect the little girl in the basement. One evening, as Vanessa and her friends laughed over cocktails upstairs, Elsie whispered into Bruno's ear, "Do you know what's going to happen in 2 years?" Bruno licked her face and lay down beside her. Neither of them knew, but Vanessa did. She had it all marked in her phone, the day Elsie turns 10. One fateful knock. It was a hot afternoon, the kind of heat that made people sleepy. The compound was silent. Vanessa had gone out for her weekly spa day. Her children were at school. The house looked peaceful from outside. But inside, in the dark basement, Elsie sat quietly beside Bruno, her ribs sticking out, her face pale and tired, her lips cracked like dry leaves. Suddenly, there was a loud knock at the gate.
Knock, 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 knock.
Elsie flinched. Bruno jumped up and ran toward the back door, barking wildly. More knocks followed, hard and loud. "Who's that?" Elsie whispered, scared. From the other side of the gate, a voice called out, "Hello? Anybody home? It's Mama Daniel from next compound. I brought Neep a message." Bruno barked harder, furious, trying to protect his little human. But when Elsie heard that voice again, she froze. It sounded familiar, warm, motherly, safe. She slowly stood up, walked with shaking legs to the gate window, peeped through it and whispered, "Bruno, wait, she's our neighbour. I remember her. That's Mama Daniel. Let me go." With all her strength, she pushed open the small gate. And in that moment, when the gate creaked open, Mama Daniel almost collapsed. She stepped back, covered her mouth, and gasped, "Jesus, Elsie!" Her eyes scanned the girl standing in front of her, barefoot, filthy, with a swollen lip, torn gown, bruised legs, and cheeks that had caved in from hunger. "My God, what happened to you? I thought you travelled when I stopped seeing you go to school." Elsie couldn't speak. She just looked down as tears streamed down her cheeks like rain. "She locked me up with Bruno. She said I should eat his food. I don't know what I did wrong." Mama Daniel's hand dropped. Her own tears began to fall. "Who locked you up, Vanessa?" Elsie nodded. Mama Daniel's mouth hung open in shock. Her heart pounded. She was trying to make sense of what she was hearing. "Ha! Vanessa? But she always greets me like an angel. This morning she even said she was baking cake for her daughter. And you mean to tell me?" She turned slowly pacing, then turned back in frustration. "You mean this woman who wears perfume like holy water and walks like a first lady is feeding you dog food? Locking you in basement? For how long, Anne? My God!" Elsie wiped her nose, her voice tiny. "She says I have 2 years left, and after that she doesn't need me again." Mama Daniel froze. Bruno, who had stood guard by Elsie's feet, gently licked her hand and sat down, watching the woman with knowing eyes. 2 years? What happens in 2 years?" Mama Daniel asked, confused, her voice shaky. But Elsie shook her head. "I don't know. She just says it every day." And in that moment, Mama Daniel's legs failed her. She leaned on the gate, crying. "This woman is a devil. God, what is this? She'll kill this girl before 2 years come. No, not on my watch." She grabbed Elsie's hand and looked her in the eyes. "Don't be afraid, okay? I'm going to fix this. You are not alone anymore." And just as she was about to leave, Bruno walked up to her and gently bumped his head on her leg, like he was saying thank you. Mama Daniel paused, looked down at the dog and whispered, "Even you've been protecting her, haven't you?" Bruno wagged his tail once, then returned to Elsie's side like a soldier. But Mama Daniel was not done. She wiped her tears, pulled out her phone, and whispered to herself, "Let me show Vanessa what it means to mess with the wrong person." That day, something in Elsie's life changed. Not completely, but just enough to keep her from breaking. Mama Daniel became her secret angel. Every afternoon when Vanessa left for her outings, her hair bouncing, her makeup perfect, her eyes glowing, Mama Daniel would sneak quietly to the gate, holding a small black nylon bag. Knock, knock. 2 knocks, pause, then 1 soft knock. That was the signal. And Bruno, he had memorized it like his own name. He would tilt his head, sniff the air, and wag his tail. He knew it was her. He knew her knock, her perfume, soft lavender, and even her body smell. While Vanessa pretended to be the perfect mother on social media, taking mirror selfies with captions like, "I am not just a mother, I am also a great stepmother." Whereas her stepdaughter was downstairs eating food smuggled through a dog. Yes, Bruno became the delivery guy. Mama Daniel would kneel beside the fence, unzip the bag and whisper, "Bruno, for her," gently. Bruno would hold the bag in his mouth, softly, so nothing spilled, and carry it through the back gate, down the stairs and into the basement. Elsie would wait with eyes wide, hands shaking, heart pounding. When Bruno dropped the bag and sat proudly, she would fall to her knees and hug him tightly, tears mixing with gratitude. Inside the bag, warm bread, pure water, mango juice, sometimes biscuit, once even a little chocolate. That day, when Elsie unwrapped the chocolate bar, she stared at it like it was treasure. She had forgotten what sweet tasted like. She didn't eat it all at once. She broke a piece and shared it with Bruno. "You saved me, Bruno. You and Mama Daniel, you're my whole world now." Every time Vanessa came back from her spa dates, she would laugh and say things like, "Hope my little darling dog child is still alive down there." Then she'd throw a piece of dry crust downstairs and walk away with her glass of wine. But she never suspected a thing. She never noticed the dog bowls were being rinsed properly, or that Elsie's cheeks were slightly fuller, or that sometimes Bruno growled at her a little longer than usual. One day, Mama Daniel even sent a tiny note folded inside the bread wrap. "Hold on, my child. Help is coming. I've told someone. We're watching her." Elsie cried and held the note to her chest like a Bible. But just as she was beginning to breathe again, just as she was starting to feel human again, something happened. Vanessa got suspicious. She noticed Bruno kept going toward the gate. She started locking the dog up during the day. She started walking around the compound more, looking for nosy neighbours. And one afternoon, she stormed into the house, slamming her bag down, face twisted. "Who touched my perfume? Why does this house smell like old lavender?" Elsie froze. Mama Daniel's scent had followed Bruno into the house. Elsie's heart pounded. Bruno looked at her, then at the stairs, as if to say, "Be strong." Something bad was coming. She could feel it. But what Vanessa didn't know was that same week, Mama Daniel had placed a hidden camera near the basement door, and every video was being sent to someone very important, someone Vanessa had no idea was watching her every move. One fateful evening, it started with a smell. Vanessa stood at the top of the stairs, her nose twitching. "Why does this whole place smell like bread and mango juice?" She sniffed again and again, like a snake trying to find its prey. Down in the basement, Elsie froze, her heart slamming in her chest. Bruno let out a low growl, not loud enough to call attention, but enough to say, "Stay alert, trouble is near." Vanessa came down the stairs slowly, heel by heel, like the devil entering a chapel. In her hand, she carried a riding cane, not for horses, just for discipline. "Elsie!" Her voice dragged the name out like poison. "What did you eat today?" Elsie said nothing. Her lips trembled. "Don't lie. Don't play dumb. I smell food. Good food. Human food." She sniffed again. "Did you steal? Did you crawl out like a rat and beg in the neighbourhood?" Elsie shook her head quickly. No, I didn't. I swear. Vanessa dropped her bag. She marched over and grabbed the ragged bag hidden under the floor mat. She ripped it open and found the remains, a biscuit wrapper, a juice box, and the folded note Mama Daniel once sent. Her eyes widened. So this is what's going on? Her voice became sharp, almost unhuman. I feed you dog food and you still have the guts to eat like a queen behind my back? You and that stupid animal? She turned to Bruno, her eyes full of hatred. Then she snapped. Vanessa grabbed the cane and began to hit wildly, not once, not twice, but over and over, screaming, I gave you shelter, I took you in, and this is how you repay me, you ungrateful little curse. Elsie cried, shielding her face, backing into the corner. Please, please stop, I didn't steal it, she gave it to me, I was hungry, please. But Vanessa didn't stop. Bruno barked, loud, angry, desperate, jumping between them, trying to shield Elsie. One of the strokes hit Bruno on the side. He yelped and fell back. That's when Vanessa did the unthinkable. She grabbed Elsie's wrist and began to drag her up the stairs like garbage. Elsie screamed, Help! Mama Daniel, please! Help me! Vanessa laughed coldly, that wicked empty laugh that sounded more like a cough of the devil. Mama Daniel won't save you, she sneered, yanking Elsie's frail wrist. She's just a lunatic neighbour with too much time. She can't stop me. No one can. She dragged Elsie up the stairs like a bag of laundry, her small body twisting, her knees scraping the concrete steps. Elsie whimpered, but Vanessa only tightened her grip. Just then, a door slammed open upstairs. What's going on? It was Joe, Vanessa's son. He walked out of his room shirtless, holding a bottle of soda with his headphones hanging around his neck. And then he saw them, Elsie being dragged, her gown torn, her legs scratched, her face wet with fresh tears, Bruno barking behind them like a soldier begging his commander to stop a war. Joe burst into laughter. Oh, wow. Again? He said, sipping his soda. Nice, another episode. I'm here to watch the next cinema. Vanessa smirked, proud. Your little dog sister here has been receiving VIP treatment. Real food from outside. Can you imagine? Joe shook his head sarcastically. Ah, no wonder she's growing cheeks. Dog food wasn't slimming her enough. As Vanessa yanked Elsie harder, she lost her balance on the last stair. Elsie's feet slipped. Thud! She hit the edge of the doorway hard and crumpled to the floor like a piece of cloth. There was a sharp crack from her leg. Elsie screamed. Bruno barked violently, circling her, licking her, whining and pacing. But Vanessa and Jason? They laughed. Vanessa scoffed. What are you shouting for? It's not like your leg was useful before. Joe chuckled. I swear this girl should be given a role in Nollywood. Always crying like it's the end of the world. Elsie held her leg, trembling. It was swelling fast. She tried to sit up, but the pain shot through her like lightning. Please, help me. I think it's broken. But Vanessa rolled her eyes. If it's broken, crawl back to your palace. Bruno is waiting. Then she waved her hand like she was dismissing a fly. Joe, help me drag her back to the dog base. I don't want blood on my tiles. Together, like it was a joke, they dragged her back downstairs, back into the dark, filthy basement. Bruno barked louder than ever, circling them, trying to bite Vanessa's wrapper, trying to stop them. But they slammed the basement door shut and locked it. Boom. Silence. Bruno sat in front of the door and began to howl, long, deep, heartbreaking howls, because he could smell the blood, he could feel her pain, and he knew she was crying alone again. Inside, Elsie curled up, holding her leg, sweat soaking her body. She bit her lips to keep from screaming, afraid if she did, they might come back and finish the job. Why am I still alive? She whispered into the darkness. Meanwhile, at that same period, a car pulled up quietly in front of the compound. Inside, Mama Daniel sat straight, her face hard, her lips trembling slightly, not out of fear, but rage boiling under control. Beside her sat two men in black suits, their earpieces glowing, a laptop screen open on one of their laps, streaming live footage from the hidden camera planted in Vanessa's house. They had just seen enough. Elsie being dragged, her legs snapping, Vanessa laughing, Joe sipping soda like he was watching a reality show, the locked basement, the blood, the screaming, and Bruno's non-stop barking, circling the door like a siren with paws. One of the men looked at Mama Daniel. "Ma," he said calmly, "we've seen enough. It's time." Mama Daniel didn't even blink. She turned her face to the gate. "Break it." Boom! Within seconds, the gate flew open. Vanessa's fake garden gnomes flew into the air. Her perfectly arranged flower pots shattered like her lies. The two men marched in first, one holding a camera, the other carrying a court document with a bold red seal. Behind them came Mama Daniel, dressed in a simple wrapper and head tie looking like thunder, wrapped in prayer. Vanessa came out of the kitchen with a smoothie in hand, looking confused. "What is the meaning of this?" She forced a laugh. "Oh, Mama Daniel, this isn't the market square. Can you people not—" "Vanessa!" Mama Daniel's voice shook the air. "Where is Elsie?" Vanessa's face changed. That fake smile melted like hot glue. I don't know what you're talking about." "Where is she?" Just then, Bruno came running. He barked like he had been waiting for this moment his entire life. Tail wagging, tongue out, but barking wildly and proudly. He ran in circles, then darted toward the basement door. "Bark! Bark! Bark! Bark!" Then he'd pause, look at them like, "Are you coming or not?" He even grabbed one of the men's trouser hems and started pulling, like, "This way, FBI! She's down here! Move it!" They followed Bruno. Down the steps to the basement door, the barking grew louder, faster, then silence. One man stepped forward, picked the lock in seconds, and slowly opened the door. What they saw stole the breath from everyone's lungs. There, curled in the corner, was Elsie, pale, weak, and sweat, holding her swollen leg. Her eyes opened weakly. "Mama Daniel?" Mama Daniel dropped to her knees and wept like a mother finding her child in a war zone. "Oh, my baby, I'm here now." "No one will touch you again." Elsie fainted into her arms, and Bruno, he sat beside her, lifted one paw and placed it gently on Elsie's back as if to say, "I've done my part. Over to you now." Meanwhile, upstairs, Vanessa was still shouting, "You people have no right. I feed that girl. She's my husband's child. She's lying. Madam!" One officer slammed the document on a table. "This is a child abuse case. Backed by camera footage, eyewitness, and—" He turned to Bruno, now coming up the stairs. "One very reliable dog." Joe tried to run. "I was just watching. I didn't touch her. Oh!" He slipped on the smoothie he dropped and crashed into the couch. Even Bruno paused to snort a breath like, "Serves you right." Vanessa was handcuffed, dragged out in front of the neighbours, her robe half-tied, wig slightly shifted. Mama Daniel followed behind, not gloating, but with pure justice in her steps. As the ambulance took Elsie away, Bruno refused to be left behind. He jumped in and sat beside her, head on her chest, refusing to move. The paramedics looked at each other. "Let him stay," Mama Daniel said softly. "That dog has done more parenting than some humans." At the hospital corridor was filled with the smell of antiseptic and soft whispers of nurses shuffling about. Elsie lay unconscious on the white hospital bed, wrapped in bandages. One leg was casted, her hands bruised, her face pale, but peaceful. For the first time in years, she wasn't sleeping on the cold floor beside dog food. But guess who refused to leave her side? Bruno. The moment the officers tried to separate him from Elsie after the rescue, Bruno barked and howled so loudly that even the doctor had to step back. "Let the dog stay," Mama Daniel said softly, wiping tears from her eyes. "That's not just a dog, that's her only family." Now, Bruno sat beside the bed, tail wagging gently, licking her fingers whenever they twitched. And if a nurse came too close, he'd look them straight in the eye. No bark, just warning. Mama Daniel sat near too, holding Elsie's hand. "She called me Mama. Even when I brought only water," she whispered to one of the officers. "I thought I was saving her, but that child saved me too because she made me to know I can go this far to care for someone." One nurse whispered to another, "They say the dog used to cover her with his body at night. Can you imagine?" Another nurse nodded, "And they say he never eats his food until she's done eating from the same plate." Bruno suddenly let out a low, steady bark, just once. Elsie's finger twitched, her eyes fluttered open slowly, blinking at the strange ceiling. "Where's Bruno?" she whispered weakly. Bruno instantly jumped onto the edge of the bed, licking her cheek and wagging his tail furiously. She smiled faintly. It was the first real smile she had managed in years. "I thought we were back in the basement," she murmured. "No," Mama Daniel said quickly, brushing Elsie's hair gently. "Never again, baby, never again." Then, bang! The door burst open. Vanessa was being dragged in, hands cuffed behind her back, screaming, "She's a witch! She cursed my home! That dog is from the pit of hell! That girl is not normal!" Everyone stared. Bruno growled so loudly, the police had to hold him back. Vanessa struggled like a madwoman, her eyes wide, her wig halfway off. One of the officers scoffed, "This one's going straight for psychiatric evaluation." But Elsie didn't flinch. She stared at Vanessa with the calmness of a storm after the rain. "Why? Did you always say I had 2 years left? And 2 days ago, you said I have a few months left," she asked. Vanessa blinked, her voice suddenly shaky. Because your dad left a will, and in a few months, the trust fund would release it if you were alive. I just needed to keep you breathing. I never said healthy, just enough till you get the fund." Gasps filled the room. Even the nurses covered their mouths in shock. The officer nodded and turned to the others. "Now we know her motive. We got her." Elsie turned to Mama Daniel slowly. Is it over?" Mama Daniel hugged her close. "Yes, sweetie, and from now on you eat real food, not dog food, except Bruno lets you taste his burger once in a while." Bruno gave a soft bark, almost like a laugh, and for the first time in years, Elsie laughed too. A weak, beautiful, free laugh. A few weeks later, the courtroom was silent, heavy with emotion. Vanessa stood in the defendant's box, pale, cuffed, her wig now gone completely, replaced by unkempt hair and a trembling jaw. She had tried to defend herself, claimed she gave Elsie a roof, claimed she fed her, claimed she disciplined her out of love. But the truth was undeniable. The prosecutor clicked the remote again. More photos flashed on the screen. A rusted dog bowl with Elsie's name scratched in it. A dark, cramped basement corner with a filthy mattress and torn blanket. Close-up images of her injuries. The bruises, the swollen joints, the untreated leg wound. A wide shot of Bruno licking her feet as she lay shivering beside a bag of dog food. The courtroom gasped. Even the bailiff turned away. Mama Daniel, sitting beside Elsie in her tiny dress and newly brushed hair, gently squeezed her hand. Then the prosecutor stood tall and clear. "Your Honour, this child, this 9-year-old, lived worse than some animals. Her only friend was a dog. Her only comfort, silence. But more horrifying than the abuse was the motive. Vanessa intentionally kept her alive, barely, for a trust fund she hoped to inherit in a few months now, the fund entrusted by her father with his lawyer, late Mr. Reynolds, Elsie's biological father." The courtroom murmured again. The lawyer stepped forward. "Your Honour, the will clearly states if Elsie Reynolds is found alive and safe by her 10th birthday, the full amount of her inheritance, 400 million, is to be released in her name and held in trust until she reaches adulthood." Vanessa's mouth dropped. She didn't know it was that much. She collapsed into the chair behind her. The judge, an older woman with stern but kind eyes, leaned forward. "Elsie, darling, do you want to say anything?" All eyes turned to the little girl in her seat. She stood up slowly, her legs still weak. Bruno stood beside her as if sensing the weight of the moment. She looked up at the judge. Tears shimmered in her eyes. Her voice cracked as she whispered, I just wanted to be loved." The silence that followed was broken by sniffles, then louder sobs. Even the judge took off her glasses, dabbing her eyes. Mama Daniel wept openly. The prosecutor turned away briefly to compose himself. The judge cleared her throat. Vanessa Reynolds, for crimes against a minor, aggravated child abuse and attempted trust fraud, you are hereby sentenced to 25 years in prison without parole. Your children, being minors, will be placed in state custody until they reach adulthood. You are unfit to be a mother, Vanessa screamed.
No, they're my children. You can't take them. Please, please.
The gavel came down hard. Order! Elsie sat down again, her small fingers curling into Bruno's fur, and when they wheeled Vanessa out, still yelling, Bruno growled once, a low, warning growl, as if to say, not anymore, never again. And the courtroom applauded. 1 year later, a soft breeze danced through the school gates as children in colourful uniforms rushed into the compound. And there she stood, Elsie, no longer the girl with sunken eyes and bruised knees, but a confident, radiant 10-year-old. Her cheeks were full, her eyes bright, her smile healing. Beside her sat Bruno, chest out, tail wagging proudly, a shiny gold medal clipped to his collar that read, Hero Dog, for loyalty beyond words. Mrs. Linda, now officially her guardian, stood behind them with pride in her eyes and love in her heart. That morning, Elsie had led the school assembly, speaking boldly about kindness. Her classmates cheered. Some even hugged her. She was no longer the invisible girl from the basement. She was a light. 8 years later, the day she turned 18, a limousine pulled up to the Reynolds Trust Foundation office. Reporters gathered, cameras clicked, and out stepped Elsie, tall, elegant, graceful. In a blue gown, she looked every inch a young woman who had conquered the impossible. Beside her, an older Bruno still walked proudly, though slower now. His grey hairs had started to show, but his loyalty had never aged. Inside the building, she signed the documents. Her $400 million inheritance was now officially hers. But she didn't celebrate with champagne. She didn't buy a yacht. Instead, she bought buildings, orphanages, shelters, safe homes. She launched the Bruno Project, a non-profit dedicated to rescuing abused children and providing therapy, shelter and education. She built animal rescue shelters too, because even dogs save lives. And at her first charity event, standing before hundreds, Elsie took the microphone. The spotlight caught the shimmer of her silver bracelet, engraved with the words, "Scars are stories that survived." She took a breath and said, "I ate dog food for years, but now I feed others with hope." The crowd stood in silence, emotional, moved. She smiled softly and continued, "When the world treats you like nothing, let your scars become someone else's light." The audience erupted in applause. Bruno barked proudly once more, loud enough to fill the room. And that day, Elsie wasn't just a survivor. She was a voice, a rescuer, a light in someone else's basement. Hello, besties. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more powerful emotional tales just like this one. Tell us in the comments what you get as takeaway. We read every comment and your thoughts matter. And don't forget to say thank you, Bruno, in your language, and remember, no child deserves to be treated badly. Until next time, remember, your pain today could be someone's hope tomorrow. Bye, besties. Stay kind, stay strong, stay focused, stay alive.